Hey guys, Kal-El here. Today we're going to be doing a ranking of the breakthrough maps in Battlefield 6 from worst to best. So breakthrough has been a favourite game mode of mine since it was introduced in Battlefield 1 with Operations. And yes, I am very sad that Operations hasn't returned. Then I've got some things to say about breakthrough as a whole in Battlefield 6, however, that's probably a topic for a different video. So, let's get right into it and start ranking these maps. Coming in at number 7, and in my opinion the worst breakthrough map in Battlefield 6 is New Sobek City. So there is some fun to be had in New Sobek City. In some ways it's got a real meat grinder Operation Locker feel to it, which might sound a bit weird because it's outdoors, but I'll get more into that. The first zone is fine. It's actually pretty well balanced. I've seen attackers take it. I've seen defenders hold it. It kind of goes 50-50 on the first zone a lot of the time. So I'd say the first zone is fine. It's a little bit strange. If you lose A on the right hand side, then as a defender your spawn at the HQ is just so far out in the open in the middle of the street that either you spawn at B and have to run across the street into A, or you spawn in the middle of the street and have to run through to A, but you have no way around A because the spawn zone's so narrow. It's quite a weird layout, but as a first zone, it's fine. Now, moving on to Zone 2 on New Sobek City, in my opinion, is one of the worst breakthrough zones ever. People have complained about how claustrophobic and small the maps are in this game, and I think there's some validity to that. But this one just takes the biscuit, in my opinion. This isn't a meat grinder, it's a goddamn NutriBullet blender on steroids. You've got one point surrounded by 6 buildings and multiple levels and an unaccountable amount of windows and just infinite directions to be killed from. I have seen this point be taken by attackers once or twice, but honestly defenders have to be incompetent to let this point go. It's just not fun, and it's one of the only maps I now genuinely ever consider skipping. I think attackers should get an attack chopper on this zone, or just completely move the zone to a different part of the map. The final zone is fine. It's fairly well balanced, but it's just nothing special and it has no real great flow to it. It's easily the worst breakthrough map in my opinion. However, what I will say about Zone 2, I'll bring it back to that Operation Locker thing. If that is your thing, if you are an Operation Locker 24/7 player, you might love Zone 2 on New Sobek City, because you are in the action 24/7. You have got no choice but to feed that meat grinder. So you might love it. For me, no, I hate it. It has no variation in gameplay. You can't flank, really. Yes, it has some verticality, but I don't like it. Anyway, moving on to number 6 is Operation Firestorm. Now, people may be surprised to see this one so low down, with it being a remake of a fan favourite. However, I think we have to remember this map was made before Breakthrough was introduced to the Battlefield franchise, and I think it shows. The first point feels epic, probably the best start to any Breakthrough map. You've got tanks, multiple jeeps and chopper taking off all at the start and rushing the front line. It has a great sense of scale and epicness on the first point. However, the next 2 sectors are so strangely laid out. I find that it's a really frustrating map to play as infantry. Tanks make a huge difference here, and if your team is Rambo rushing your tank into the enemy, you're going to have a really bad time. The most fun I've had on this map is when I'm doing well with a tank, and there's certainly fun to be had there. And then there's nothing wrong with having a map that's more vehicle focused. I mean, God knows, actually, we probably need more of that. But then why not lean right into it? Give us jets and attack choppers, and give us choppers on all the zones. At the moment we get a transport chopper on the first zone and that's it. I mean, this map really deserves to have that full all-out warfare feeling. And I wonder why DICE has been so adverse to adding air vehicles to breakthrough maps. I can understand why jets might be harder to introduce and balance, but some of these maps I think are crying out for attack choppers. Not to mention little birds that are not even in the game at the moment, but apparently are coming. I think this map is redeemable and could even move up a few points with some work. Coming in at number 5 is Empire State. Now this map has a really rough first point for the attackers, which to be honest is something you're going to hear me say a lot, is a bit of a theme for Breakthrough on Battlefield 6, that the first point for attackers is generally really unbalanced. And I will say this is down to map balancing, but a large part of it is due to people still learning the game, the maps and the mode. Many more casual players still haven't figured out, for example, the usefulness of a smoke, or just how important it is to just get your body on the point and outnumber the enemy on the point. And also, the smoke grenade only being on the support class, that certainly isn't helping on Breakthrough. I'm not sure I agree with that, but again, that is really a topic for another video. However, the longer the game has been out, the more you see people learning, and that has translated into seeing more and more games where the attackers are winning and taking the first point. Now, talking about Empire State specifically, it's very similar in a lot of ways to Manhattan Bridge, but it's just not as fun in my opinion. The first point is really rough. The second point is quite well balanced and fun, especially with the bridge adjoining the 2 points. However, the last point is really quite bad in my opinion. It's probably like second worst sector, along with New Sobek City's second sector. It's trying to have the epic final showdown of like Cairo or Liberation Peak, but it just doesn't work here. It's so easy to get behind the defenders that on defense you just feel like you're constantly running around chasing your own tail. This one is quite heavily unbalanced towards attack, I feel, and it's just not a fun point to play on either side in my opinion. I'm not sure rebalancing this map will ever really move it up. It's a case of certain maps not working for certain modes. Because I actually like Empire State a lot in Conquest, for example. I just don't think it's ever going to be a great breakthrough map. But it's okay. It's serviceable. And now moving on to number 4 is Manhattan Bridge. I'm just going to get out of the way. Once again, the first point is really rough and has serious balancing issues. However, if you do get past the first point, I think Manhattan Bridge is a really fun and unique map for Battlefield. As attackers, if you take the first point and then control of the large building overlooking A in the second zone, it gives kind of like Battlefield 3 Rush Damavand Peak vibes when everyone is parachuting from the roof down to A. It's not as epic as Damavand Peak, but it is cool all the same. On the topic of bringing up previous maps, I have to say it's a familiar theme of all these maps. They're really missing that crafted cinematic touch. Skydiving from Damavand Peak, bringing down a skyscraper in Siege of Shanghai, destroying a dam and flooding a map, making a comeback with a Dreadnought or a Behemoth from Battlefield 1. Breakthrough honestly doesn't feel very carefully crafted on any of the maps. So they're all just quite serviceable, but none of them give me much of an epic or cinematic feeling of some of the previous titles. However, I think Manhattan Bridge is a really cool map, working well on multiple game modes. It feels to me possibly more than any other map in Battlefield history like fighting in a real city. I mean, that may surprise some people, but I really do like this one. If you disagree, let me know what your favourite city map is. Right, so now we're getting into the top 3. And in third place, we have Mirak Valley. I feel some people are going to be really surprised by how high I've got this one. It's had a rough start considering there's been a bug with vehicles not spawning in the first area for attackers, which has made it near impossible for attackers to push through. Once again, the first point being a real nightmare for attackers. Even with the tanks working, the first point is just really tough. But the look and the atmosphere of the map, especially the first point, gives real Battlefield 1 vibes with the trenches in the fields. it's a really beautiful map, and I think with a bit of work it could easily be a breakthrough classic. The second point is a bit strange, and the layout possibly needs some work. B is just in a really weird spot. However, I really enjoy the cinematic nature of rushing down the hills and storming the construction site of A. You often see great uses of the assault ladder here. The last point, or zone, is absolutely brilliant, and unfortunately with the balancing issues of the first 2 points, many people haven't even seen it. It's large and expansive, plenty of opportunities to flank, and it really has all that all-out warfare vibe. This map, more than any other though, seems to be begging for air vehicles, maybe on par with Operation Firestorm. It's a beautiful map, and it's got real atmosphere, and I'm really hoping that they give it some love and make some changes, because this could be a top map. Now we're down to the top 2, and this was actually a really tough decision because I think both of these are great maps. However, I'm going to give the other map a slight edge, and at number 2 I'm going to go for Siege of Cairo. Now I just think this is a great Battlefield map in general. I think this is going to be an absolute classic of Battlefield history. It's very urban, very close together, but you can still find a lot of smart flanking routes. Now, the first point in the beta, the first zone in the beta, had a bit of a balancing issue. Once again, it was a little bit too defense-sided, and it was quite tough for the attackers, especially on point B, because on point B, you really had to push down very narrow choke points to get onto the B point. But with B's capture point pushed and extended into the courtyard towards the attacker spawn, that's actually really helped balance the map. I feel that the first zone and the map in general is actually a really well balanced map. I find that either playing attack or defense, I don't really know which way the game's going to go, so I feel it's just overall a very well balanced map. The second zone is usually like an epic showdown with both sides taking control of either side of the street, which I just find really interesting, and like a lot of breakthrough maps, tanks can play a really big part here. The final point is really great in my opinion. It's easy for defenders to get dug in, but attackers have a really great chance to overwhelm with flanks down the sides, and they can get a foothold in the centre. I've seen a lot of really epic showdowns here. Overall, I'd just say this is a really great, well balanced map. It's really fun to play. So we're left with just one map. And for those of you that are very clever, you would have already figured out the map remaining. Going in at my favourite spot, my favourite breakthrough map is Liberation Peak. Now, Liberation Peak was pretty rough during the beta. I think we've all seen the memes with a million sniper glints in the mountains. And yes, this map can suffer from having a lot of snipers on it. I will accept that. And in the beta, once again, the first point was really quite rough. However, once the game had been around for a few days, people realised where they could push, how to use the tanks, and how to use the smokes, and things got a little bit better. But anyway, since the beta, the first point once again has been extended towards the attacker's base, which helps to balance a lot more. You've actually got these sort of little building on the right hand side where attackers can actually cap the zone and take cover, and that's really helped. I feel that Liberation Peak is pretty well balanced. It offers, especially after the first point, a lot of wide flanking routes. I mean, you can snipe, you can go close quarters, and you also have useful vehicle gameplay. Again, though, it's another map where I feel that some aircrafts wouldn't be amiss and would work really well, but we don't have them. Obviously, DICE feel they can't balance them. Assaulting or defending the final point feels really epic. Initially, I felt the last point was too hard for attackers, but the more I've played it, the more I've had more of a 50-50 experience. If the attackers get control up the left side of the mountain and the towers, they can easily start to get a foothold on the final point and get the win. Overall, I would just say that Liberation Peak is my favourite breakthrough map to play right now. I feel it's really well balanced, and it's a beautiful map, and it's got a classic sort of Battlefield feel to it. So that's it, guys. That's my ranking, and as I said at the start, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the maps too. So final note is remember, smoke and push. Thanks for watching, guys.